And even when I come out, and I found myself standing staring quite a lot, and I was like, well, catch yourself on, but it was like I was listening to God and I could see everything unfold in my mind. And this is probably a word of warning for women that maybe don't follow the leading of their husband. Now, if you're not a born again Christian and you don't believe in this theory or whatever, just scroll on, because it's not for you. You're not going to agree with it. But talking from a biblical perspective, and a godly woman married to a godly man, whenever your husband is trying to direct your family in a certain way, so for example, about a year odd ago, like a year and a half or so ago, my husband had tried to persuade my oldest son to come out of university. He was not enjoying it, he hated it. The teachers weren't great. And I mean, he was waiting for clearing even to get on that course, and it wasn't his first choice, he just went anyway. So my husband was like saying, come out, just do a trade with me. Tried to persuade my other son to leave too. And he said to me, I want the boys to come out and work with me. And I was like, no. Because to me, I had held education as an idol before me. I was always studying and stuff, and God has allowed me to study. God has needed me to study so I could get into a place where he needed me to be for my new job. But I held education as an idol in my life, and I was like forcing my kids into it as well, and that's maybe not what God wanted. And I wasn't seeking God in anything. I was like, this is what we're going to do. The kids are going to get educated, they're going to get really good jobs, blah blah blah. That's what I was called to do. That's not what my sons were called to do. My second son was in a course in college, and he couldn't be bothered going. He was just not into it. It did not enjoy it. Went for the sake of it. I was really trying to encourage him to stick. My oldest son finished off his degree, never got a job with it. My second son didn't even, he literally 2 weeks before he was ready to, he sat some of his exams and all, and he didn't go back for the rest of them. He just did not complete it. And I really tried to persuade him to finish the course just to get the level. Didn't do it. Both of them ended up leaving their college course, their jobs, and going out to work with their dad anyway. And at this time, when this was happening, I didn't trust my husband. I honestly didn't believe the Holy Spirit worked through him. I didn't believe that he was hearing from God. I wasn't hearing from God, so I honestly didn't think he was, because we were way off living our lives. And that's the grace of God. He still speaks to you even in your deepest, darkest pit. He's trying to guide you and your family. And you don't always come under the authority of your husband or the guidance. I don't like using those words, authority and stuff, because people try to think my belief is Jesus is the head of the church is the bride, the church is the people on earth. But there's a very strict order there, and the way the Bible explains marriage, and there is a hierarchy, and the man is the head of the home, and the woman, I don't like using the word submission either, but absolutely devoted to your husband. And I would always have been there, what more do you want? I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm working, I get the kids, all those mummy things that you do, that most women do. In my mind, I always felt that way. I would have done, don't get me wrong, my husband would have done cooking and cleaning and stuff, but it was mostly my responsibility, and I was quite happy to do that. That's how our lives fit in. So there is that responsibility of a man to be the head of the home, financially, and security and safety, and also very much so in a spiritual perspective. My opinion would be the man is the head of the home. He's supposed to be responsible for guiding his family in a spiritual way, training the kids up in the way they should go, and having God in our home and educating them spiritually that way. So there's dad at the top, mum underneath, kids below, and I believe that's how it is. Now, don't get me wrong, doesn't mean God thinks lesser of me. You know, we both come together, but spiritually I just think there's probably more responsibility put on a man from a biblical perspective. So I just wasn't that person. Like, I would have told my husband what we were going to do. And like, that's great, safe. Like, you want to pick wallpaper, whatever. Like, men are quite happy just to do what they're told, to be fair. They're like, yeah, whatever, they're not interested in that. Even things like, I don't know, booking holidays, whatever. My husband never really had an opinion. He's like, yeah, we'll just do that, whatever. Happy for me to organise stuff and to go ahead and make decisions, no problem. But in regards to like our financial situation and stuff, I was like working, trying to be Mrs. Independent and pay for all the bills and stuff, and I made a rod for my own back. And my husband, like, he has his own business. I didn't appreciate what he did. I never told him, like, I knew how hard my husband worked, but I never was like, you work really hard. But I always felt like my husband never said that to me either. But it was never my job to be the breadwinner of our family. It wasn't meant to be. So, yes, don't undermine your husband. You know, what I've realised is, it's going to sound so ridiculous, like, God doesn't just speak to me. You don't know if God is speaking to your husband, or like, not even in like a real audible voice. You don't know what's going on in your husband's head, of how God is speaking to him, or what he's telling him to do, or how he's directing him. So I have just, like, God just said to me, Emma, you have to trust me to tell your husband what to do. Because if you want him to be the leader of your family and the godly man, then you have to trust that I can tell him, not just you. I can tell him how to do this. And I use that example of like my husband trying to persuade the boys. In my mind, he was just trying to get his own way. But he could see the trades were probably far better than the degree that maybe my son was doing. But I was like, no, because I am fiercely independent. God has made me a very independent person. Like, I know who I am, quite confident. I'm like 5'8". My husband used to say, like, wee woman. And mostly, like, if I was like, I want this or this, he'd do it. Like, always done what he was told. But there comes a time where your husband has to be responsible to lead your family, and that has got nothing to do with me. That has got everything to do with God and him. And I have to go with his leading, and I'm like wrestling in my head with God. Like, I am wrestling. I'm like, Lord, but like, my husband's not educated. It's not all about having exams. He doesn't need to be educated for God to speak to him. He doesn't need to be educated. How does my husband run his own business? It's not based on education. It's based on experience and his skills. And it hasn't a GCSE to rub together, but it doesn't matter. He runs a very successful business, and he's a really good eye and a really good mathematics and eye for design and reading, drawings and things like that. He doesn't need to have a degree to do that. He just doesn't need it. And that's how he's successful. He didn't need to go to uni, and he didn't need to do that. That was not his path. My path was to go and study, because that's the way I have to. You have no choice but to go and study to get the certificates, otherwise I can't do the job. But that was my calling, not his. So we're two very different people on two different paths, career paths. But I have to trust God that he's given him all of the skills and all the knowledge that he needs to be able to do that and run that to support us financially. And like, when I look at my life, God was just like, he's making us so successful. And it's not all about success and finances, money, not like, hear me when I say it. God really wanted better for us. We started off when we were married, it was very difficult. We were financially unstable, and God all these years is really trying to help us and support us to get to a place where we had literally so much money we could be giving it to other people. And like, that's the truth.